Question 17. Would you be willing to become extremely ugly physically if it meant you would live for 1,000 years at any physical age you choose? I'm going to go with yes, I would. Because living for 1,000 years sounds pretty flipping great to me. Now, granted, you could say, but clearly this is some magic. And the magic that keeps you alive for 1,000 years could be a curse, because you could fall down a mine shaft or something and then spend over 900 years trapped down a mine shaft with every broken bone in your body causing you agony, and you'd be kept alive magically for 1,000 years suffering the torment. Yeah, okay. Putting that aside, let's imagine that for 1,000 years I live the normal sort of life. You know, I eat food and keep going. I just happen to not age for 1,000 years. And then what physical age? I'd choose some fairly obvious physical age. I don't know, late 20s, early 30s, something like that, when you're reasonably mature and still able-bodied and so forth. So would I become? It says extremely ugly physically. Now, obviously, even extreme ugliness could be fixed to some degree, plastic surgery and so forth. But let's assume it really is unfixable, just for the sake of this argument. But let's also imagine that this ugliness doesn't actually affect my ability to do things. So, for instance, I could be incredibly ugly because I had a very badly malformed lips and mouth, in which case I might not be able to talk properly. But let's imagine that it's just decorative, okay? It's just ugliness. I can talk normally, I can think normally, I can walk normally, I can do everything normally. I just look hideous. I think in 1,000 years I could probably get used to people finding me ugly and used to putting them at their ease and demonstrating to them that I'm nothing to be frightened of. I think it's a skill that I would probably hone pretty well over 1,000 years. Yes, of course, if I'm extremely physically ugly, some people are going to react badly to me, but if you live with people for a reasonable while, I think they're going to get used to you after a bit, aren't they? Unless perhaps they're the sort of people that you don't really want to live with anyway. Now, there are a number of follow-up questions to this. How much are you affected by a person's physical appearance? Definitely not insignificantly. I'm sure how good-looking a person is does affect how I react to them. Yes, I'm sure it does. There are actors who make careers out of being very good-looking, and perhaps people do just naturally prefer to look at good-looking people, and that's not something that we learn either. You can put a baby that's so young that the baby's only just learned how to see properly, and that baby will prefer to look at faces that adults consider to be good looking over those which are adults consider to be ugly. So it's, there is an innate preference for looking at beautiful things that people have, and beautiful people, and what makes a person beautiful. So yes, I'm sure I am affected. How much? It's immeasurable, of course, but significantly, I'm sure. When I meet, particularly if I meet someone of the opposite sex, how interested I am in them, I'm sure must vary according to looks. Although I can say that I have met some extremely good-looking women and I did not like them at all. So simply being good-looking on its own, that I won't like you just for that. But I'm not going to be so shallow as to suggest that I am so deep as to be not affected at all. How would it change your life if something happened to make you much less attractive than you are now? Well, that's interesting in the context of YouTube, because I talk to a camera for a living. Now, I suppose I could, make more and more, or even exclusively, videos in which I'm just voiceover and you're looking at things other than me. Although, if I go to interview people, you might find that there's a lot of footage that I might find there's a lot of footage I can't use, because people are going, whoa, when I stick a camera in their face and start asking questions. Who the hell are you? What happened to your face? So yes, I'm sure it would change my life if something happened to make me much less attractive than I am now. But I don't think I've got anywhere on looks hitherto, so I don't think it would change my life any more than it would change anyone else's, really. I think I could probably carry on talking to a camera. It's interesting. Are there any examples of very successful YouTubers who are very ugly? Right off the top of my head, I can't actually think of one. But so one to Google there. Do you find anything disturbing about immortality? At what age seems ideal to you? How, yes, eternal life, that could be bad. Actually still being alive after the rest of the universe has come to a close, for instance, and there you are with nothing to look at and you're just still alive. Yes, that's not tremendously appealing. Living for 1,000 years, though, yeah, I think I could live for 1,000 years without getting bored of being alive. I think there are enough places to go, things to do, people to see, music to hear, pictures to paint, books to write and read, stories to hear. I don't think I would. I don't think the boredom, the repetition, would ever defeat me. I think I could spend 1,000 years trying to get to know this world. There really are an awful lot of people, even in 1,000 years. There really are an awful lot of people in this world. I couldn't possibly get to know them all, go everywhere. And, some films are worth seeing a few times. And hey, if you get to live 1,000 years, maybe you find that after about 3 centuries or so, you've actually forgotten that movie. You can watch it again and enjoy it from scratch, and only towards the end think, do you know, I think I've actually seen this movie. It was about 3 centuries ago. Well, there you go. And I find out just how classic a story can be if we're still enjoying Shakespeare's plays, aren't we? 400 years after he wrote them. So maybe Casablanca is still going to be a terrifically good film in 3, 4, 5 centuries time. So eternity. I don't think I want to live for eternity. That's pretty disturbing. The Earth has been destroyed. The solar system has gone, and there I am floating in space, but somehow still alive. No, there's no appeal in that. But living for 1,000 years, yep, definitely. 2,000. But if I could pick any number, what would I be like after 10,000 years alive? I don't know. I'm so eminently unqualified to answer that question, as are we all. But as long as there are other people around, and as long as there are, yes, as long as it's possible to get pleasure from being alive, not living in some horrendous wasteland where scratching a living is just possible if I'm really lucky and my life is one of suffering. That's really unlikely. So yes, I'd like to live for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Yep, give me that. I take it.